Hey, I am Brother West, and the only station I listen to in the morning is Flashpoint Radio. Please stay tuned and be blessed.
We 55.3 million people die in this world each and every year. That means 151,600 people die each and every day, and 6,316 each and every hour. I want you to really take your time and think about this. This means that when we woke up this morning, about 151,600 people didn't wake up with us. And by the end of the day today, another 151,600 people are gonna be dead. So whenever you feel like this life is not worth living, whenever you feel like taking your own life, whenever you feel like giving in or giving up, I want you to remember that there are many people who are on their dying beds right now. There are many people gasping for breath. There are many people who are praying that they could have just one more day, just one more hour to spend some time with their loved ones. There are many people who are 6 feet under and they don't have the gift of life that we have today. So if you are alive, if you have breath, if your heart is beating, you got every reason to be grateful. You got every reason to be thankful. You got every reason to live your best life now. There are many people who are physically challenged, but they don't let it stop them from living their best life. They don't allow it to stop them from using their God-given talents, gifts, and abilities. There are many people who can't walk. There are many people who can't talk. There are many people who can see, but they don't let it define them. Matter of fact, they don't call themselves disabled. They say they are differently abled. They are enjoying their lives and making a difference with what they've got. So what are you doing with the gift of life that God has given you today? What impact are you having on the people around you? What mark are you leaving on this earth? Are you gonna make the best out of what you've got? Or you're gonna keep complaining about what you don't have? The job that you hate and keep complaining about is a dream of someone who is unemployed. The house that you think is too small is the hope of the homeless man. The food that you are sick and tired of eating is what someone is longing for. So be grateful for what you have, and God will definitely bless you with more. And live each and every day to the fullest, because there are many people who wish they had the breath of life that you have right now. Shalom.
Good morning. This is day 31. To him who knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is sin. James chapter 4, verse 17. A vase full of good intentions, written by Anne Setters. In a Peanuts cartoon by Charles Schulz, Marcy gives her school teacher some flowers. Not to be outdone, Peppermint Patty says to the teacher, I thought about doing the same thing, ma'am, but I never got around to it. Could you use a vase full of good intentions? We've all had intentions of doing something good, but then failed to follow through. We may want to make a phone call to check up on a friend, or visit a sick neighbor, or write a note of encouragement to a loved one, but we don't take the time. Some people know that Jesus Christ is the only way to heaven and they plan to trust in Him someday. Yet they keep putting it off. They may have good intentions, but that won't bring salvation. As Christians, we may say that we want to grow closer to the Lord, but somehow we don't make the time to read the Word of God or to pray. James has some strong words about our problem of not taking action. To him who knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is a sin. Is there something you've been putting off? Write that card or write that letter today. Visit that sick friend. A vase full of good intentions never brightened anyone's day. I do intend to do your will is what we often tell the Lord. But what will honor him the most are deeds of love to back our word. Our quote this morning reads, "Good intentions are no good until they are put into action." End quote.
Looking to build your dream home or renovate your space? M&M Construction is the perfect place. We bring your vision to life with precision and quality craftsmanship. From design to construction, we guide you every step, ensuring seamless coordination and superior results. Our professional roof inspection and maintenance services will ensure that your roof is sturdy this hurricane season. So, if you are ready to start your construction journey, call us today at 345-927-7509. Build with confidence. Build with M&M Construction. 345-927-7509.
Well, I say welcome back to the breakfast hour this morning. If you're just joining us this morning, if you're on our Facebook page or YouTube link or Instagram this morning, I want to say good morning to you and welcome to the breakfast hour this morning. Good morning also to our listeners across the globe. I want to say good morning to my good friend Mama Boy this morning. Otherwise called Garnet. And of course, I'm going to hook him up in a bit and of course, give a little shout out and, have a little bit of conversation. But in the meantime, Current, good morning to you.
It's a fantastic Friday. It's the end of the week. It's the end of the first month of the year.
Yes.
I was talking to somebody recently and they're like, can you believe that the month is ending already? So time waits for no man, and so
and no woman at all.
Go ahead.
Time waits for no man, and of course no woman included.
Okay, so on that note, the encouragement is do not waste a minute with negative thoughts. Use it wisely. Use the moments to enjoy your family, your friends, and what better way to do it than to be with us on a Friday morning, on a Saturday morning, on a Sunday morning, and then we're on 24 hours, right? So
24 hours of the day. I want to say to our listeners in the United States and in Canada and in the UK, good morning to you, Welcome to the breakfast hour. And this morning, we want to talk a little bit on family. Of course, today is Family Day, Lady Curly Karen. And we discuss matters of the family, matters of the heart. And today we are definitely going to be looking at a few highlights from the paternity aspect of family. We talked about marriage and we talked a little bit about the types of families before. And last week we touched a little bit on marriages and stuff like that. We could go to the marriage market to find a wife or husband. I understand. Back in the day, it was a big
That was
thing.
yesterday, right?
That was last week Friday.
Well, yesterday I hear you guys mention it again.
Yeah, we mentioned it. We mentioned it yesterday, and of course, we want to thank Lady Elise for joining us this morning. I think she's trying to get herself ready. So give her some time.
Yes, she is trying to get herself ready.
Well, all right. Let me go to the man Garnet, all the way in Jamaica this morning. Hey, good morning, Garnet. How you doing this morning?
Well, me there go easy, my brother. Yeah, man. Falling good back at Jamaica, my brother. They are listening,
You're
They are
listening.
listening. Yeah, man, they are listening. I look to get ready to go up on this work.
This morning, but you stop in for the breakfast hour in the mornings.
Well, everything sound going up from 4 o'clock this morning. Me a listening station.
Oh my God. Flashpoint is reaching everywhere, and of course, you're enjoying yourself this morning. What you enjoy, and you particularly enjoyed your devotional this morning?
Well, the gospel, me say the gospel them very nice, man. Me say, man, me get up and I listen to the gospel them right through tell no. Come like nothing want to work.
Well, if you start, listen, what I'm going to say to you this morning, Garnet, is if we get in the topic, it's why you're definitely not going to go to work today. Because today we're going to talk about, you know the thing I call them jacket? We talk about jacket.
Yes, man.
We talk about jacket, right? It's called paternity, identifying your paternity. All right, so we are looking at identifying who's the paternal or parent, father in this sense, because of course we're wondering if a woman can get jacket too. You think women can get jacket?
Well, so me I see, if a man no go there, if a man no go there, if Africa come,
Him can't get called if him not by touch. I go nowhere there.
yeah, if him no go there, he not go get called. So anyway, take it somebody name have to get called.
So let me ask you a question. If it was you and you get a child and you are saying why questioning whether or not it's your child, how you'd feel about that?
Well, me not go know, cause true me know me go there. It's a DNA. Me could have to go take to realize I know my own.
What suppose I said if the one don't look like you at all, the one don't look like you none at all. What would you do at that point?
Why? He act still no, but me have to go and work with it and go and maintain it, cause that child can't come and look after me in the future.
Well, all right. You know what? I won't even press you no more on that matter. I won't. I hear the answer you give, and I like the answer you give. I will not say one more word on that. So continue enjoying Flashpoint, man. So share Flashpoint with everybody else that you have in your contacts. All right.
Yes, man. Thanks again, man. Big up all of the Flashpoint family there, man.
All right.
From Garnet, from Jamaica.
All right, Garnet. Have yourself a beautiful one, sir.
Yeah, man. Same to you. Bless.
All right, that was Garnet from Jamaica this morning. Of course, just doing a shout out. Of course, Curly. Did you get a shout out this morning, Curly?
I did. As I was listening to Garnet, sharing and weighing in on it. I mean, it sounds good. I wonder how many persons share his thoughts, and so it would be good to explore how receptive other persons are if they find themselves in that similar situation.
They found themselves in that similar situation. Wow. Can
Yep.
you imagine? I'm waiting for Lady Elise to make a statement because all I see is that she's smiling a lot and she's not even trying to answer.
That's typical though. That's typical. I mean, when it comes to, when we're talking about family, we're talking about different elements of the family, right?
Right.
And certainly, it would be remiss of us not to touch on some of the controversial elements, which this one is. Now, as you rightly said, it is for the father to be identified. I will say that the mother, by virtue of having carried the child for 9 months, has established her maternity.
She's the one who actually have a child. Oh my God.
Exactly.
So
So paternity now
yes.
is the issue that is always in contention.
So maternity is secured, but paternity is a questionable is a question that is being probed every time we hear this one.
But here's the interesting thing, I mean, I hear what Garnet said, and there's an element that came to my mind that men do not want to come to grips or contend with the possibility that somebody else went there. And so it's better for him
Yes.
to get the jacket to fit than to decide whether or not it cannot or it is not his.
Yes.
So there's that social element of it that came to my mind.
Very interesting twist, huh?
Exactly. So it's not just establishing whether or not, it's how it's going to look and what it really means if it's not.
Mercy.
But I mean, as I said, that's not necessarily where we're going. The social element of it, and so
it's a wide place. It's a very dynamic conversation. I'm happy you stretched it to that point, Lady Karen, because when you think about the whole thing of how this has been a topical issue from the time memorial. It's not now that this is a matter, It's not today it starts, It's not last week. It's not just since 2025 we're having this conversation. It's a conversation that is a long, from I was a boy till now, it has been a conversation, and that's a long time ago, right? And
no. I wonder though, how long really, because to the point, a lot of the conversations I've heard, it has never been about the paternity. It's always the fact that the man has many different children, and it's almost as if it was a stripe, how many children they have, and so on. For me, the conversation is fairly recent, contending with the possibility that the women are carrying home jackets.
Hold on, Lady Creditor. You said the women are what?
Carrying home jackets.
I like how she coined
and she framed that. She framed that one.
but that's what it is. And there is this concept that there is almost, it's not a question. A man is, if he's with somebody, he's not going to question the fidelity of the woman.
Right. It's not questioning.
Whereas it may be a possibility with the man because again, he may have, he's very cunning and crafty with it. But what I have now realized, or what is now coming to the fore, is that there are women who have mastered the element of tailoring, and so, the poor man would not have guessed or would not even conceive it being a possibility, and so he's just going to accept it for what it is.
Oh my word! ability, the express ability and of tailoring.
I'm telling you, you
I
know,
can't stop
um,
this.
but you know,
I got it. I got it.
Michael. But that's the truth of it. And so when you contemplate it, but think about it.
Oh,
Think
God.
about it. You're with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a woman and she's coming home to you every single day or she's living with you and she is now pregnant, you're not expecting that there is somebody else. You're expecting her to be yours or to be faithful. So I think a lot of men just take it for granted that they're secure in this relationship. And so the question is mute. To some of them detriment. I heard of one instance where the couple were married and it ended up that both children were not his.
That's a serious serious
Children were not his. They were married, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I dare say
yes, and the both of them.
uh,
I can you know, without even saying anything, you know, I've seen many persons go through the suffering of fathering children that they are not certain of is their child. And we look at what is the spill off? Here's a better question for some of this conversation. What is the spill off, though, of this contention that is really occurring, right? How does
I will ask you a quick question because I know that your experience is wide and varied.
Oh, go ahead. I'm listening. I'm getting the question.
I'm very curious, right? So a lot of times it's just theory.
A lot of time it's just theory.
What would prompt a man to question the paternity of a child?
All right, fine. And I'm happy you mentioned that. And of course, let's get into one of our clips for this morning's experience. You know, to see whether or not, you know, how it is possible that one could question this very important aspect of a relationship and a child is involved in this relationship. So let's go to the first clip that we have this morning. These are short clips, so when we come back, let's do it like this. All right, let's get into it.
He hasn't done anything for my daughter all this year.
I've been there the whole time that she was pregnant, and you know, but this year she's correct. I haven't done much because of the situation being the way that it is between her and I.
That has
you know,
nothing to do with
concerning
our
the paternity
daughter.
of the
She
child.
still needs food. She still needs daycare.
And you still need to prove that she might.
We talked for a minute. I wasn't really interested. We didn't really talk much for a few years, and then he contacted me on Facebook, and we've been talking ever since.
Talking? What's that mean?
Well,
You've been doing more than talking if Nevaeh.
Right.
And
right.
he could potentially be the
moved
father.
kind of quickly. He moved in, and then we started to.
So wait, how quickly after you met did he move in?
Very soon, like a month.
Time to stir the pot even more. While the baby mama was all in for a DNA test, Mr. Miller kept questioning Nevaeh's paternity. Their chaotic back and forth robbed the baby of a peaceful birth. In fact, her arrival day was just as messy as their relationship.
We discussed getting a DNA test, and I was okay with that because we hadn't been together. I was okay with getting the DNA test.
Oh, so immediately there was a discussion of a DNA
Right.
test.
Yeah, no, it was
So
fine.
immediately you expressed that you may or may not be the father of this child.
Going into her pregnancy, she wasn't even 4, maybe 5 months pregnant before he gave me a gift with some onesies in it. One of the onesies specifically said, "My daddy is the blank." Okay, I won't say the name because the name that was on the onesie is a nickname that the friend goes by.
What? So you say this friend who started acting funny brings you 2 onesies for the baby?
There is a residential neighborhood, ain't no stores out there, no clubs, no place but somebody's house.
Her car was spotted in this neighborhood.
Right, not once, twice somebody done
But
called me.
did you see my car? Did you see it?
No, I never said I stole her car. I said someone has reached out to me
So
and
someone else
said
is
they
more
seen my
believable.
baby mama car in this man's neighborhood.
Tensions were running high. They're on again, off again, mostly over open relationship was the reason they landed in this paternity drama to begin with. But hold on, baby mama whipped out the trusty birth certificate. Let the games begin.
Mr. Miller was there for the birth?
He was there for the birth, and as I asked him to be, because a month prior to that, he was MIA. He left my house when I was 8 months pregnant, claimed it was for his daughter, but she never once went to that house, ever.
Oh, why she ain't
And
go
then
there?
when I
Why
tried,
she ain't been there?
then when I
Why
tried
she ain't
to
been there?
establish
Why my
paternity-
daughter ain't come to my house?
Excuse me.
I signed the birth certificate, so technically it is my daughter.
It is.
Hearing this just confirms that thought that I had. You know, I don't want her to just, oh, that's your baby, oh, that's your baby, that's your baby, that's your baby, that's your baby. Like it was just me that you was dealing with.
All right, so Ms. Bruce, has your position changed?
Nope. It looks like he's clear from here on out. He shouldn't have any more kids. But he's
All right, here we come back. Yes, there's a dispute for you, you know.
Yeah. It's disturbing. It's actually disturbing. But I mean, because disturbing from the standpoint of the child, because here you are, two parents not sure whether or not the father. Again, the issue is really the father. And so what I have observed is that in recent times it has become more prevalent, the question of paternity. And ultimately, especially the program that you referenced a while ago, you see a lot of instances where it's really about the child. It's not so much.
It's not so much about the parent, but more about the child.
The child. I'll be more definitive. It is always about the child. I mean, irresponsible behavior of adults, and I'm using it in quotes, has nothing to do with the protection and the care of that child who is innocent
in all of this.
In this case, you know, and I wonder sometimes if that consciousness is what maybe distinguish maturity from immaturity. Because if you're doing something that will ultimately impact somebody else, shouldn't you be cautious? Shouldn't you have a bit more care in how you indulge in that activity to make sure that there is either less instances of those questions or that there isn't a question at all?
Well, here is
a lot of people on the planet doing mature things and can't deal with the end result of it.
Well, what I'd ask Lady Elise to do for me at this time is to do a Google search on this. Let's do it. So we don't say that Flashpoint came up with their own statistic on this. Of what is the ratio of, in terms of, is this something, a phenomenon of a man fathering another man's child? What is the ratio? Is it 1 in 10, 1 in 100? Is it 1 in a million? Is it 1 in 5? Is it 1 in 6? Is it 1 in 20, 1 in 50? You know, let's get a statistic on it. I'm gonna give her a little bit of homework right now to do that for us. Until I wanna do a second clip.
While I do the research, there's a phrase that I've heard frequently. Well, I've heard it from a member of the team on Flashpoint.
Yes.
And he would say, mind of a matter. If you don't mind, it really doesn't matter. So I would stretch it to say, as Cordy Curran mentioned, it's about the child. And I know how painful it can be when you feel that certainly there is some infidelity, or you would have trusted someone and they would have broken that trust. But what about the child? What about the child? The child is innocent in all this. Child had no control over what happened. And therefore, I believe as parents, as adults, we have to take responsibility and care for the children. And you know what, too, Mikey G? You know, we have so many references in the Bible, because you said you have heard about it from you were a boy.
Time memorial, yes.
Mary and Joseph.
I think my father heard about it too. Before.
What about Mary and Joseph?
Mary and Mary and Joseph have a very unique situation.
They had a
And then
unique situation.
you could see, you could also see what was taking place in that matter, because
And Joseph, how did Joseph
what was Joseph's
respond?
response?
Yes.
You know, this is a matter of the Christ birth, right? This is Jesus being born, and I'm happy you're bringing this point, Lady Elise, because these are important factors when you talk about these things, right?
Yeah.
And we're going.
Except though in Jesus's case, wouldn't you say that Joseph was informed as to who fathered the child?
Joseph would have been what? Repeat that for me. Did it correctly?
Informed. Didn't the angel visit Joseph and explain what was happening?
Yes, and he had faith to believe the angel.
It was a good thing. It was a good thing that it wasn't like in Jamaica that the angel came, especially now with those guys with AK-47s and these things. And the angel get a whole heap of bullets coming in his direction. I'm just messing with that. I'm just thinking how that story could go in a Jamaican context.
I was thinking more of Hosea and Gomer.
Yes, that too.
But
that too.
All right, Hosea and Gomer. Let us have Hosea and Gomer.
Yeah, and whereas, and I can be wrong, it was mentioned that she had other children.
Right.
It would appear, took them on, or when he reclaimed her, he brought her back along with the children that she would have born with other men. So he no fathered them. And so the question then becomes, was his intent or was his actions out of love for his wife, his obedience to God, his care for the child? And so is that how we should treat with it today?
Well, all right.
So if you're with a Hosea situation,
like Hosea situation. All right, fine. So I would love to hear Lady Elise on this part of it. Yeah.
Well, my thoughts are.
You're taking Hosea's condition at that time.
Do you think it's just random when we read the Bible and we read the stories that are detailed there, and you wonder the relevance in thousands of years down the line? Why is that story even in the Bible?
Well,
and in our human, as you just mentioned the Jamaican context, and Hazel G has weighed in on the conversation and said, Mikey G, you are just too funny. But the point is,
I must give her a call. I must give her a call and let her join the conversation this morning.
Yeah, we're not making light of the conversation because we recognize that these issues they run deep and they run hot. And as persons in the family and as Christians, it's not something that we say it doesn't happen. It is, as you said, your father knew about it, you know about it, you have read of stories in the Bible.
Yes.
But one story comes to mind, and it's not particularly in line, but we recognize the story of Hagar. And even though the paternity was sure and everything was orchestrated, it was the wife who said, I cannot take this woman anymore and her child.
Mercy.
And therefore get out of the house.
I mean, you mentioned this, and you bring you when you throw up these things, and when you think about it, you take that woman, and I as a father would send her away with my child. This is God's people, we are talking about, right? These are some conversations that are tough conversations to have. We don't want to claim that we have the authority and speaking on the totality of it. But we are looking at the measurement that we would have used as a standard by which we are looking at ourselves as human beings.
Yes.
how do you reconcile that? In today's world, how would you reconcile something like that? You having a child, and knowing this is something that was organized. This was something that was willfully done. It's not something that you went, as we talk about, you went and cheat and get a child and all of that. It's a case of marriage, because the story wasn't a concubine, and he was married. The helper became Abraham's wife.
Yes.
Bible says that, right? So we're not making this up. So it's a matter of two wives there, and she was the second wife.
Right, but how
and then the first wife, who have the most authority, ordered their husband to send away his wife with his child.
Well, I guess she took the authority because she was the one who initiated this, or staged the entire.
I just thought I'd frame that. I thought I'd frame that.
Right, but then again, maybe when you say she ordered him, remember that she was the one who ordered him to go in the servant. So ordering him to reverse. Sorry, her order now is to reverse her first instruction. But I don't want us to stray too far from the point, because
I'm not going in further direction at all. I'm just leaving it right there.
Right. So what we have is the question of whether the man is the father of the child. And I believe where Lady Elise was taking it is the social impact, or the psychological impact that it has on the three people.
Yes.
So imagine the guilt of the woman, because she's the only one at some point who would be aware that she would have slept with somebody else.
Yes.
The man, having a question in his mind as to whether or not does he approach this woman who in his mind is committed to him and ask the question. Can you imagine that thought process? The child don't look like me, And I have a question. Should I ask her? How would she react?
Let me share. Yes.
No, Karen, you have opened another can of worms. You just glazed over that statement in like seconds. The child don't look like me, so therefore, and then we can go in the genetic line and say, my grandmother was Indian, so therefore.
It was Indian. Well, here is a part of the colloquial background for there was a Chinese woman, a man, and a black woman, and they're having white, having children, and this thing people have crossing race, having children, and of course the child came out and the child was totally black. Child was a black child, was a Negro child.
That can happen, and that
child
can
was
happen.
Black. But
it can happen.
The Chinese man have very high skin, high color, everything.
Don't use the word high.
The lady's explanation to it was.
Don't use the word high.
All right, well, fine. Well, her explanation was why the child came out just black and never had any other color scheme on the child was because when they were actually engaging in that aspect of relations, they turn off the light and it caused the problem. So
I cannot. Good morning, listeners. Good morning, viewers. You're tuned in live to the Breakfast Hour. It's on Gospel Friday, and we are having our focus on the family. And today we are talking about paternity and if it really does matter. And of course, the question is not a new one. There have been questions in the Bible, and we recall the story of evil Jesus and the Holy Spirit saying to Joseph, this child is of the Holy Spirit. And he trusted that process. And we went to the story of Hagar and also the story of Hosea. And, what are your thoughts on this conversation? And tune into the conversation. Mikey G just mentioned a very funny interesting story, but one that is a true one. Right, Mikey G?
The stories or the facts of the explanation is absolutely not. But even with that, think about how clever this woman is to have, on the spur of the moment, given an explanation that, well, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. But clearly the man, in his, I guess, attempts to protect his home and his family, decided that it is plausibly no. Let me run with it. But ultimately, though, because this is really a very serious thing, because there's so many children who, when they come face with the possibility that the person who maybe grew them is not really their father, that there's somebody else out there. I've seen, even on that the show that you mentioned, Paternity Court, there are some people who are so traumatized by not knowing. There are women who didn't grow up with their father. The mom, for one reason, because of her shame, was not willing to tell them that she had more than one partners, or maybe that the partner was somebody who was married or in another relationship, and so she could not have identified the child with the father. And so the trauma of it is something that is a lifetime, because a lot of the sons want to know their father because they want to be able to have that bond. So
identify.
Exactly. And so from a social standpoint, and I'm certainly not an authority, but just to say that there is that impact.
Yes.
That one careless act can traumatize somebody for their entire lives. I've seen adults, 30 odd years, who are in tears because they're just finding out who their father is. They're just realizing that the person who they grew up with was not their father. And sometimes the community, there's always that whispering. And, either somebody said, oh, but you look like the person down the road. We look alike. And there's that also things that are happening that would cause one to question it. And so it is something that is real on so many levels that I think one of the things that I would say, that going back to the story that you referenced, Michael, is that there's always an explanation.
Right.
And it's whether or not it makes sense. Because in truth, that gentleman should have rejected that explanation, but it didn't make any sense.
Never make a sense at all. But
love is blind, Corey.
Well, Elise, did you find the statistics that I'm asking for when I come back?
I didn't find the statistics.
What I want you to do a Google search for me. Just do a Google on it, and you will find something coming up on your Google engine. Of course, I have it on my Google search, but I'm asking you if you can reveal that. I'm gonna go to another clip, and then when we come back.
So I get to my house and there's nobody there. So I'm like, man, what's going on? So I'm calling. I'm like, what are you doing? Where are you at? Oh, I'm with a friend. I'm like, no, you're not with no friend. You're going to tell me where you at with my kids. And then she told me, oh, your kids, what do you mean your kids? You didn't sign no birth certificate.
I want to understand from you, Miss Luther, because this is the part I really don't get. What are your hopes? You still live thousands of miles away, but you're here in court saying you are these children's father. Do you want to put your family back together? What do you want today?
I actually have no idea what the plan would look like if these results do come back that he is the father.
I think we're in a place now where only the truth is going to help us move forward, and I have that for you. And paternity is in question for both. We do know that they could be fathered by two different men, so we have two different results. Mr. Downs, you are not the father. Very sorry.
All right, so here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go, here we go again. All right, all right. So we're considering the idea. All right, ready for this one? Ready for this one? Lady Curly,
Yes, I'm here trying to. I'm also getting myself some information that says that it's what, however, general population studies suggest a much lower rate with misattributed paternity occurring in only 1% to 5% of the population. So I don't know. This one is from, this is Google. So it would suggest that it has become a question, and the research continues as to how prevalent it is.
One in 5%, you're saying?
Yes, of the population have false paternity.
False paternity.
So, what have you found anything, Elisa?
You know what this did is open a whole new different, because then my search has taken to the to false insemination in labs. You know, that sort of fraud is a thing. Paternity fraud.
Paternity fraud. And here we have. I wanted to bring a story.
So
also, I wanted to have brought a story here this morning that basically is a one man suing for the fraudulentness of what he was experiencing. And then here's where it attaches itself. We're going to go to next week. We want to talk a little bit on child support and these things next week. And so we open up a little bit more. We are going to be kind of like segueing a little bit from this into it, but we're going to be kind of attaching it to this. All right? And so we'll be looking at that next week. So for those who are listening to us this morning and joining us, and of course if you're enjoying the topic or you find it curious, then of course it is something that you probably want to chime in on. You can make your comments in the comment section on our YouTube or Facebook page, or simply put it in our VIP chat. All right? Send us a text message or email.
It says the legal and ethical implications of paternity fraud are profound. In cases where paternity fraud is uncovered, the affected men often face significant emotional and financial strain. The question of whether these men are entitled to refunds for child maintenance payments and whether women who commit paternity fraud should face legal consequences such as fraud charges has been raised in many legal systems, including South Africa, as demonstrated by recent court rulings, such as the Cape Town court case where a man successfully had his paternity duties terminated after a DNA test proved he was not the biological father. The courts are beginning to recognize the rights of men in these situations. However, the question of whether mothers should face criminal charges for paternity fraud remains contentious.
Wow.
And then I like this definition here. Also, a paper that was done called Measuring Paternal Discrepancy and its Public Health Consequences, right? Paternal discrepancy occurs when a child is identified as being biologically fathered by someone other than the man who believes he is the father. And of course, they are using some information from the study, and they discovered that those who conceive younger live in deprivation or in long term relationships rather than marriages, or in certain cultural groups are at higher risk. And there are public health consequences of paternal discrepancy, yes, being exposed, including family breakup and even violence. So, of course, this thing, of course, runs deep. But I want us to take it home and sort of conclude the conversation and recognize that we really do believe in the family. And even though these things happen, what is the true solution?
All right.
What is what how do
Here
we
is here is where we go with
gauge
here is
it?
where we go with the conversation, because of course we have exhausted it a little bit,
This
and
is
so
going
we
to
have
be interesting.
it
Yes.
is very interesting. We could go so much more. I have even more clips to share, but I think we have I think it's almost news time. But I wanted to say this. If we could just talk a little bit on this idea, or in this direction, what could create um, or cause such a mix-up or such a chaotic situation for all these things happening? What is it? What is propelling this, or driving this? You know, what do you think creates this happening in many ways?
Okay. That question is interesting because it sounds to me you're asking me why do women cheat?
No, well, I wasn't even asking that. I was not
Okay.
even asking that question, because
Is that
the
what
question.
you're asking?
Well, the question. I was asking the question on why women cheat or men cheat. I was asking basically on the query of why are we finding ourselves in this predicament of cheating idea and the mixing up of children and all.
Well,
That's the
sin
question.
then comes short, Mikey G.
Then comes
Uh, yeah. I think that ultimately is what it comes down to. And if you want to break it down further, we have become so far from the ideal
Mm.
that, so think about it. The concept of family is more than just two persons coming together. It is building out a an institution that brings with it a level of security, a level of comfort. Uh, it's a sense of belonging. And when that is compromised, what you have now is one, there's no value placed on the union that the family brings. And the persons feel as if it is okay to go outside of that institution. And as a result, you have mayhem because the end result, whether it ends in a child or not, there's always that emotional element of it when you talk about betrayal, the lack of trust, the lack of security that comes with. And so we have fallen so far from the ideal that we've become promiscuous. We're no longer, it's no longer sufficient for us to be committed to one. We want to have the resources that are available from any source that it comes from. So you're right. I would agree that it is the sin element that has, but it is destroying individuals so much. I'm seeing an article where a gentleman who has been searching for years for his father who impregnated his 15-year-old mom. And the mere fact that he's searching says that he feels a sense of being incomplete. He needs to connect. He needs, and without that, his quest continues,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And a lot of times, a moment of, I don't know, indiscretion, and even our attempt to hide it. Because a lot of times, the women, and again, we have to put, because this is exclusively about the women, right?
Well,
They
I
attempt
would,
to hide
but
it.
go ahead.
They attempt to hide it, causes further um, destruction
Well,
to herself as well as to the child.
what I can
And
tell
then
you.
the man, when he finds out that it wasn't his child.
Well, what I
I've
can.
heard of situations where because of illness, that is how it came to the fore. So the child became ill, needed something that the father could contribute. And when the blood test was done, you realize that that is the time they're finding out that he could not have fathered the child.
Well,
Yeah.
here's where you can look at it as well. Lady Karen, where the whole aspect of the father being involved, and he himself, after wanting to have this child, wanting the child, is disenfranchised by the deception. But remember one thing: none of these activities are solely upon women. Men are
No.
involved in every aspect of it. And so, you know, there's a mentality that runs wild within some of us. Or that, there are men out there who want to give an ex-man a child, woman a child, deliberately, as an act of some, I don't know what that is, but does it purposefully, like go and do it, and then boast about it afterwards.
Sorry, when it comes to the matter of paternity, when I said it's really about the woman, she's the only one who knows whether or not. So she's the one who knows how many persons she would have had intercourse with. She's the only one who would know whether it was around the time of conception and whether or not so that was where I was saying it's really the woman who has that information when it comes to the matter of paternity.
And that is true because there's nobody who can determine that. And that's not something that a lot of persons will talk about. But, for some unknown reason, I always go back. This never happened with the woman alone. It means that there's a man involved every time. So we don't want to blame our women today. And of course, this program this morning is not to blame any woman because of whatever, because these are things that are happening to human beings, making choices. And so the women are falling prey to some situations while some people are deliberately getting involved. What we know for example, our experience is that her history is one that always has come to crumble because of not following the basic rules of engagement of how things should work. And we go off after on what we think we should do, how we should do it, and how we want it to be done.
Yeah.
Having said that, this morning, we have really covered a whole lot of information this morning. And this morning's topic is not a very simple one, because many persons listening this morning are hurting about a lot of things. But I can say this one thing. When a man gets a child and the child is not his, and he grows that child to a certain point, love the child, and then hearing it is not his when the child is like almost teenage years.
Still his child.
Here's where I'm going to go. Many persons have adopted children. People are out adopting children all over the place. And I would say to some of our men, and when we come back next week, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, and about why it is so damning and sometimes very what's the word I'm looking for here? Very heartrending for a lot of men. Is because it attaches itself to monetary prosecution, monetary loss of money, and prosecution for children, right? And this is where it becomes a little hazy. So next week we want to touch a little bit on that topic.
Yeah, I don't know, Mikey G. These topics, even though that we have tried to separate them and condense them, it ends up being so vast in how far it can go.
Can't be condensed.
When Corley Karen mentioned that article that the possibility of women being charged for fraud and then the legal implications, I didn't even explore that thought. But I will say that one of our viewers once said, my nephew got a twin, one brown and one black. He claims that the black one is his.
All right, fine. So here's a man who saw the thing on the news that they were giving out $10,000 for a family of 5.
Yes.
He ended up with having 3 kids with this lady. that he has, his wife, keeping two other children secret from his wife that he had, seeing the notice, run and tell his wife, I soon come back. I have two more kids. We're going to get the $10,000. He discloses the idea. Went to grab his two kids from the next family that he had, the next lady that he had the two kids with. When he comes back, he says, honey, see the picture them here? I have them. Call the rest of, where the rest of kids them? The woman says, for them father or their father, just pick them up too. He saw the notice as well.
But make like I want to ask this question: is there a chance for healing, despite the challenges that are faced? For whatever reason, without going, to see what the cause of it. Can there be healing? Can God soothe the wounds? Can the Christian family be one that still supports both partners, in case of these issues? Can that be how we wrap up the conversation?
God can do all things. I think, one of the things, again, I mentioned that the three persons are involved. And so the woman first has to start by asking, forgiving herself for what she has done. But in so doing that, there's an accountability element of it as it relates to the other two persons, the child as well as the father, to seek almost restitution for what she would have done to them. And it is when she comes clean and allowing that element of it to open herself to admitting what she did. And then also the child, because knowing now what the status is, certainly God can restore, God can heal, but there's also the process. So I think we have become more receptive of counseling. So a psychologist is somebody who is trained to guide people through those emotional situations. And so it is something that, along with praying and, seeking God, there is also, God has created psychologists, I believe, the learning. So we can avail ourselves of the resources to work through so that we can heal and be restored as well.
Well, I would add this one. I watch a friend cry profusely for his results that came back when he was trying to look about the children's green card for the United States residents, to get them into the United States of America. And when they did the test, the son that he had was not his. So he was crying. Tears came from his eyes because he loved his son. And it was a situation to see. It was something that I thought about it. This is something on my mind all the time. But I would say to someone that, how do you stop loving that child after knowing that it's not your child?
Oh, but then that's where the innocence, the child had nothing to do with it.
No, I'm only saying, I'm speaking not of the child innocence now. I'm talking about the man who finds himself in this position.
You would have invested in the emotional connection with someone. And so I don't know, well, again, what I've observed, because I'm not in the know, is that it takes strength of character to continue in that relationship. Because again, the man would have a sense of betrayal. So he also needs time to come to grips with what just happened. But it's not for him to distance himself from the child, because the child had nothing to do with it. But he needs, as an individual, to go to understand what happened and to deal with that sense of betrayal and that sense of loss, in terms of loss of trust in the person who for all these years he would have allowed him to believe this to be the case. So I think for me it's two separate questions. You know, he is gonna have, it's not about unloving the child. It's about recognizing that you can still have a relationship, but you need time to deal with yourself, because sometimes we can't, as humans, our outlet may be misdirected, and the last thing you want is to put that on the child, to the anger, taking it out on the child because the child had nothing to do with
Nothing
it.
at all.
It's the mother and yourself. But again, you can't fault him if he decides to take away himself from that relationship, because he too has a personal stake in it.
And Cordy, you have said it well. And I like the fact that we recognize that there are three individuals involved, and each of them requires a different level of support. And so that is where, as you mentioned, the professional support does come in, as well as the spiritual support, because yes, it doesn't mean doom and gloom. And we just read the public health implications, and of course the mental health. And you know sometimes even as parents, and some single moms, that's a different subject, they would raise their child, and when the child is an adult, they decide, I want to know my father. And you're wondering, after you have invested everything, you have sent them to school and everything, why is this desire to know their father, even in adulthood? So certainly all parts of the puzzle connect.
Agreed.
I guess we have exhausted this conversation this morning. I want to say thank you guys for this morning's topic, conversation.
Very interesting, very interesting.
Lots of stuff came out of this one. But I want to leave with our men who find themselves having children that are not yours, and you're really good at child. Come on. We adopt children all the time. I'll leave it there for the purpose of, for the sake of the child.
Yes.
You can take it up with that situation with the mother or the child, but try and separate. I'm asking.
Yes.
Try and separate the child from it.
Yes.
It's hard. It's a hard sell. It's a hard call for me to say this to someone. But you must, at some point, see it for what it is, and know that at this point the child has nothing to do with this and needs you more now than as ever before. So that's it. All right, guys. Thank you very much this morning, Lady Karen, and of course Lady Elise for this topic. We're going to get into the news, of course. Our new news anchor is also Lady Karen. And of course, I've always thank you so much for being a part of Flashpoint and to do the things that you do. For our listeners this morning on Facebook and YouTube, on Instagram, and or radio at www.flashpointmedia.ay. I want to say a pleasant good morning to you, and if you're just joining us, I want to say welcome. For across the landscape, whether you're in the United Kingdom, the US of A, Jamaica, and the Caribbean, any part of Europe, we say welcome and thank you for being a part of this morning's show.
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4 Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426.
Good morning, K-Man. It is the 31st of January, 2025. These are the news headlines on Flashpoint Radio. I'm Coralie Karen. Premier pushes contentious bills into parliamentary agenda. Premier Julian O'Connor Connolly has forced the inclusion of two controversial bills on the agenda for Friday's session of Parliament. With her minority government relying on the Progressives-led opposition for support, O'Connor Connolly has pushed forward changes to Cayman's National Conservation Act and a referendum on decriminalizing small amounts of ganja and establishing a national lottery. This move has sparked resistance from opposition MPs who argue that divisive issues should be left to the next administration. A business committee meeting on Wednesday led to an impasse as members debated the committee's authority in setting the House agenda. Congestion likely in Georgetown as Edward Street partly closed. Motorists in central Georgetown should brace for traffic disruptions due to a week-long road closure as the revitalization project nears completion. Edward Street at the junction with Cardinal Avenue closed at 6 p.m. on Wednesday and will remain shut until 6 a.m. on Wednesday, February 5. Local access is available at Shetton Road and two-way traffic has resumed on Main Street. The Ministry of Planning and the Georgetown Revitalization Initiative thanked the public for its patience. The project, initially slated for completion in 2022, faced delays due to supply chain challenges. Top F1 driver enjoying paradise, George in Georgetown. Formula One star George Russell is making the most of his time in Grand Cayman, sharing social media posts of his stay at the Ritz-Carlton and scenic walks along 7 Mile Beach. Russell, set to lead the Mercedes team this season following Lewis Hamilton's move to Ferrari, participated in the Cayman Cookout and a beachside taping of the Larger Tables podcast with Chef Jose Andres. The event drew an enthusiastic crowd as the speedster discussed his plans for the upcoming F1 season. Cayman continues to attract top athletes, including Marcus Ericsson, Kyle Simpson, and Michael Jordan. What voters need to know before Election Day. With Cayman's voter registration closed for the April 30 general election, the next steps in the electoral process are underway. Elections Supervisor Wesley Howell announced that the revised electors list featured a record 25,687 registered voters, was published on January 29 and remains open for review for 21 days. Voters can check their details and submit claims or objections before the list is finalized. In regional news, economic growth cannot happen with very high interest rates. Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Senator Auburn Hill, is calling on local banks to lower lending rates, stating that high interest rates hinder economic growth. Speaking at a post-cabinet press briefing, Hill urged commercial banks to align their rates with the Bank of Jamaica, which has cut its policy rate 4 times consecutively. Business groups are also pressuring banks to pass these reductions on to the customers and businesses. Government monitoring deportation issues with U.S. authorities. Foreign Affairs Minister Kamina Johnson-Smith has reassured the public that the government is closely monitoring the situation regarding deportations of Jamaican nationals from the United States. Johnson-Smith addressed concerns over misinformation circulating on social media, stressing that Jamaica maintains strong diplomatic relations with the U.S. and is handling the matter through official engagements. In Nevis, 19 found dead on drifting vessel. Authorities in St. Kitts and Nevis are investigating a tragic discovery after a drifting vessel was found carrying 19 deceased individuals. The Coast Guard located the vessel on January 29 and towed it to St. Kitts for further investigation. The identities of the victims and the vessel's origin remain unknown as officials work to uncover the circumstances of the tragedy. Caribbean Airlines disputes pilot's claims after emergency landing. Caribbean Airlines has denied claims made by the Trinidad and Tobago Airline Pilots Association regarding safety concerns after an emergency landing on January 27. The airline emphasized its commitment to safety and compliance with international aviation standards, including ICAO and FAA regulations. Following the incident, Caribbean Airlines activated response protocols, including removing involved personnel from active duty pending investigations. The airline dismissed TTALPA's statements as reckless and reaffirmed its commitment to regulatory excellence. Antigua and Barbuda to ratify CAF membership agreement soon. Antigua and Barbuda is set to become the 23rd member of the Development Bank of Latin America and the Caribbean, CAF, enhancing its access to flexible development financing. Prime Minister Gaston Brown signed key agreements on the sidelines of CAF's International Economic Forum in Panama City. The necessary legislation will soon be presented in Parliament, where Brown's ruling Labour Party holds the majority needed to complete the process. Those were your news headlines on Flashpoint Radio. Continue to stay tuned and be updated.
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4 Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426.
Yes, a lot happening in the news this morning. So much happening, Mikey G. And of course, we are back to the conversation about a little bit of ganja, marijuana, and the legality of it. That's a conversation that's happening, and so many other conversations happening there on the news. On a sad note, though, finding 19 people dead on a drifting vessel, and I just want to just make that comparison with the news of what's happening in the U.S. and Jamaica saying, despite rumors about undocumented immigrants being sent home from the US, do you see the lens people go through for a better life, even at the detriment of their own life?
Well, I would say to you, if you listen to the conversation and listen carefully on that conversation, the now US persons, the persons who are living in the US who are claiming ownership of it, were pilgrims once who went into the same country looking for a better life, traveled from, in fact, it was estimated that there are so many people who died at sea trying to get to this better land, and they still took the journey with all that insecurity, right?
The
irony of it, right? And it's a very troubling thing, because we are looking at the indigenous people.
Ironic. It's the deception of it.
The deception of it. They are the indigenous people who are the Mexicans who were there a long time. The Indians were there a long time, and now here is the persons who came and basically took the place are telling those indigenous people, you can't come any further this way. And it's a thought, right? It's a thought that you might want to consider. The right and wrong of it is we have looked at biblical principles where many countries over time in the Bible, if you want to use the Bible as a template, that have been captured or being into captivity and were basically taken over. And so this is not a unique case. It is a constant recurring wheel or revolving wheel or revolving door that keeps moving around, that it is the stronger that actually rules. So I guess might is override in so many cases. I don't know which way you want.
And I think the concept of wanting, there's nothing wrong with wanting to be better, to be able to have a life that is of comfort. We're all pursuing it. One would say that the reason why we have an education is not necessarily to learn, it's how you use that learning.
Right.
And ultimately the learning is to gain financial stability, and so what is unfortunate is that people have to die as a result of it. And you look at our social network and the fabric of the society, and you wonder, the disparity between those who have and the have-nots, and how great that divide continues to get. Mm-hmm. We think about people who the industrialization and the havoc that it has reached, the wrecked on the farming community, the manufacturing community, the concept of self-sufficiency. So in a big way, the big people who have gotten there are now having their feet on the necks of others who are trying to do exactly what they did.
In the earlier stage. It's like a case where we have sometimes where we are migrating from one place to the next. And then what happens is that the same persons who came from the same country that you come from get position of authority within the same country that you are trying to stay. And they are the ones who make it difficult for their same countrymen to actually have same privileges that they are. Yeah. Make it so difficult. The same privilege that was extended to these individuals actually turn around, use the position of power that they have. Instead of trying to not be so difficult, they make it so hard for their own people to actually survive in the same context.
And the truth is, going back to the concept of America, they were oppression. America, the people were running from oppression from Europe.
Yes.
And the truth is, they're hoping to create a space for themselves. So they want freedom, and here it is, they have now locked the doors
of freedom.
on those who.
They have closed the door. They have closed the door of freedom. The very freedom that the door is open for them, they have closed it for everyone else.
Yeah.
I guess there's so much freedom. There's just so much freedom for everyone, right?
I mean, it goes back to choice. Do we? Boy, I'm telling you, I'll leave that one alone.
It's troubling. I mean, we're not supporting criminality or anyone who is illegally doing anything.
But
trying
story,
to.
Michael, a gentleman who says he's a citizen, and he in 2 weeks have been stopped by ICE. They have approached him and they have detained him twice. He has his documents, so he's not. It begs the question: where are they finding these criminals? Or
is it based on how he looks?
So exactly.
More likely based on how he looks.
Exactly. It is profiling, and so if you look a certain way, then you are subject to scrutiny. So it's not about finding somebody who. How do you know they're criminals? Is there a way to identify or distinguish those who are legitimate from those who are not? Or are you just throwing the net, pulling everybody, and of the 1,000 or the 900 people who you are detained, you now have to then go through the process of filtering those who are and who are not. And then the question is, in 2 weeks, how can somebody who is legitimate be detained twice?
Again.
It's a serious
thing. It's a question of the process as well.
Yeah.
Well, the people of the United States voted for this government to be their government. Despite of whatever we might say or anyone might say, it is the choice of the people that matters.
Well, what I have to say, it is sad, and the conversation being spurred certainly from what we just discovered in the news, where in one island you found 19 people dead adrift on a vessel, all seeking for a better life. And although we aren't finding persons dead on vessels in the US, certainly there are persons being sent home. Some of them perhaps have lived so far from home for so long.
I've had families, children, grandchildren.
We are not saying that we are promoting illegitimate or illegal ways of trying to secure a better life, but it is a sad place to be.
I believe that there could be some. In my mind, I think there could be some way where the separation of this criminalization has taken a one brush to fit all, and I think
sad.
I think it's not. I think for me, I'm gonna say I don't believe that's the approach that should have been taken. I think that there are persons who lived in the US for many years, despite whatever the legal ramification of it is. We want the legal thing. One time, legal thing was a black person couldn't drink from a white pipe. A black person couldn't be in a bus with white people in there and sit down. That's where legal was. You have to look at these legal things. You have to look at what laws were, what laws are. I'm not deeming or trying to tell people to break laws or do anything, but there are some laws that are made up, that are really bad laws and illegal activities being legally done to people unfairly in a lot of ways. So I would suggest that there are persons who have been contributing to the society. At least do something for those persons. Do something for them who actually was there, legally working, not committing any crime, and doing something instead, mixing everybody up with the same group of persons who come in. We understand that they have found some warlord in the US, which they have been searching for so long, and living in the state, which is not a bad thing that they are actually finding criminals. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm saying it.
But don't criminalize.
You cannot criminalize everyone using a broad brush. I think there must be a separation somewhere that must be applied.
Because
there must be some standard to be applied.
As watching the news yesterday, and you have persons who in their minds want to make sure that they are legitimate and they're going to the office, the ICE office, and you have family outside. In one man said he has been waiting for 3 hours because he's not sure of what is going to be the outcome, and that there are persons who go in and don't come out. Wow. Because they're now looking and what they're doing is creating space in Guantanamo Bay to house all of these people. So what they're going to do is send them to Cuba. I mean, imagine the breaking up of families. There's this lady who said her father has been there for years, and he's set to be deported. And it's not that he's a criminal. He is not a criminal.
Well, until it comes to your door as an individual, that is the same person. Can you imagine that the man who is actually doing this, somebody comes and deem his family illegal and then deport them?
Yeah.
Same person deport your family and say they're illegal. Just find a law to say and see how hurt you would be. I mean, let's find criminals, man. Let's not destroy families.
Let's not destroy families. On that note, it's time. It has been such a full educational morning. I want to thank those who have tuned in from Jamaica. Big up Lady Patsy over there. She has said good morning from Jamaica on Facebook. Good morning. Welcome to the Breakfast Hour. Thank you for tuning in. And we want to wish you all a good weekend. Go out and enjoy the weekend. If you're going to go to the beach, please go ahead and enjoy some sunlight. If you're going to chill, or if you're coming to karaoke, yes, karaoke is happening. Bringing the vibe in 2025.
Yes, let's put our karaoke up and of course to let folks see that we are actually serious about what we are doing for this weekend. Of course, coming up. And the 1st of February, I get it right this time. Yesterday I made a mess of it. All right, so the 1st of February, 2025, this Saturday evening at 7 p.m. where karaoke starts. Yeah, it's a bring the vibe night. Come sing away your evening, and of course, be crowned king or queen of karaoke on a Saturday night. Yeah, that's it. Of course, come and get some food. Of course. $7 is the ticket cost, and of course you get 1 cup of soup with that. Remember, guys, we start where we end, with fun every time. Total fun. Karaoke. Right, anything else you want to say or not, Lady Elise? I think Lady Curly, is you're going to sing Saturday night,
right? Did you say that to Curly Curran? Did you just say that to Curly Curran?
I believe, I wasn't sure which of us he was speaking to. Having questions, I am now very clear. Very clear it is not me. But inviting our friends to come out and vibe with us. We're enjoying life. We're celebrating life in 2025. So bring your energy, bring your vocals, bring your friends, and come on, let's really vibe together. Oftentimes you may see us on camera or hear us. Why not come on down and see us in person and have a chat, And there will be refreshments on sale as well. So we want to make sure as you sing, you can refresh yourself as well. And just spend the night with us, having fun, hanging out, and vibing throughout the night. I'm looking forward to seeing
listen to Holy Rain sings and entertain.
Wow.
Alright guys, let's tell you what. Thank you for joining us this morning for the breakfast service. It's been a minute. We had total fun with you this morning. I hope you did with us as well. First, for listeners on www.flashpointmedia.ky, the radio continues all day. Remember, this evening is the open portal with Pastor Marquino Ferran. Yeah, man. Of course, at 6:13 p.m. right here on Flashpoint. Of course, our Vesper services are excellent, and we have so much to talk about. We talk about the family a lot this week and covering a lot of families. Every Friday is deemed Family Friday. Next week, we want to look at the topic dealing with the idea of paternity slash alimony. Tell you what. Yeah. Alimony, you know, we're going to look at that thing and see what it actually is. Who benefits from these things that we do?
Alimony.
Alright, guys, I want to take us out. Anybody? Final words and let's go.
Have yourself a great weekend, everyone. A wonderful day. Stay safe and remember, tell someone that you care. Don't procrastinate. Remember the devotional ways of good intentions. Just get up and do it. Don't just think about it. Call someone, find out how they're doing, and see how you can help them this weekend, today.
Absolutely. Fabulous Friday, everyone.
Alright, having said that, keep listening. Flashpoint Radio. Of course, today we have lots of stuff lined up for you. Have yourself a great day, guys. Of course, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram, and of course, X. Take care. Have yourself a great day. Catch you next week, same time, same place. Monday to Friday at 6:30 a.m. on our radio. We start streaming at about 7:30, 7:15 in the mornings. So you can catch us earlier if you so desire. Have yourself a good one. Have a great weekend. Of course, God bless.
Listening to Flashpoint Radio, Rise and Shine, your morning boost of inspiration, news, and fun. With Mikey G, Lady Elise, and Coralie Karen, the unmistakable combination, synergized to navigate.
It's like we're running in circles, going around every day, getting stuck in the hurdles of yesterday. Don't you wanna go further, away from the fray? Let's not get stuck in our worries, we'll make our way. Won't you come outside where the sunflowers bloom? Breathe in the air, look up to the moon. I'll meet you outside, away from the crowd. Just you and me together, it will all seem better outside. Just us in the sky. I will go wherever, I'll be yours Are we part of this circus? Is it innate? Feels like a heavy burden, but I can't relate. Do our actions even matter? Or is this a fate? At least now I'm feeling better. I know I'm here to stay. Won't you come outside where the sunflowers bloom? Breathe in the air, look up to the moon. I'll meet meet you outside, away from the crowd. Just you and me together, and we'll all sing there outside. Just us in the sky. I will go wherever, I'll be yours
You're listening to Flashpoint, the family